We are back in Hyphens Haven, the space for multi-hyphenate artists who work on stage and off, in front of the camera and behind the scenes. We share our paths to becoming who we are. And the spotlight for today turns to a Chicago-based entertainment lawyer whose work has contributed to projects, including representing the Hampton family during the creation of the two-time Academy Award-winning film, Judas and the Black Messiah. In addition to entertainment law, additional practice areas include sports law, business law, intellectual property law, real estate law, family law, international law, and criminal law. So I'm very excited, and I'm blessed to introduce my Georgia Tech classmate and also my lawyer for my upcoming feature-length film. This is the one and only Khaliyq Muhammad. Hi, Khaliyq. How are you today?
Hello, I'm doing great. How about you?
All is well. I just really am excited to bring you and your knowledge to those who are listening. But as we want the audience to get to know who you are and your choices, we always start at your genesis, your foundation. So share with us, who are your parents or those you were raised by, and what were their names and professions?
Yes, my father's name is Khaliyq Muhammad and my mother, Nakiba Muhammad.
Okay.
Their professions are nursing. They're both nurses.
They're both nurses. That's cool. That's a medical household you grew up in. And did you grow up with siblings?
Yes, I grew up in the house with 4 siblings, and I also have 2 half siblings as well that were instrumental in my life growing up.
Okay, let's go back to your early learning days, elementary school. Where did you attend, and was there a teacher that you recall seeing something special in you and wanted to nurture that talent that was seen?
Yes, in elementary school, it was an interesting mix for me. Initially, I started off in private school, and then I was homeschooled by my parents for a couple of years. And then in the 3rd grade, I started public school down in Atlanta. I'll actually speak on some of the teachers there that kind of inspired me. I had Mr. Windsor in my 5th grade year, and I had Miss Brown in my 4th grade year. And both of them were very helpful to me very, very early on. And they inspired me to get involved in a lot of activities, both in and outside of the classroom.
Was there a particular memory that you have now that was just a happy moment during your childhood?
Oh, yes. One of the happiest moments for me, I would say, was being able to be one of the first people to introduce the world to the Olympic Stadium in Atlanta. So I was a flag bearer during the '96 Olympics, and I actually carried the Argentinian flag.
How cool is that? You were a flag bearer. That is so cool that you were part of the Olympics. So, and that was, what grade were you in? That was '96. What grade was that?
Yeah, that was '96. So that would have made it. And, you're showing my age here because I have to actually count back. But, I believe I was in the 8th grade at that time.
Oh, cool. So being in middle school, where did you go to middle school?
I attended Bunch Middle School in Atlanta. Go
Bunch.
Chargers.
Yeah, shout out to Bunch Middle School, those who might be listening. So being a middle school student, was there a particular time that you recall? Because now you're starting to blossom into this young man, right? That you are picking up some particular interest that is going to carry you into high school. Do you remember what that was?
Oh, yes. Science and engineering. Even at that age, I was actually very interested in law, believe it or not. I had a teacher that I was very close to, and, Miss Jenkins, whatnot, my 6th grade year. And, I used to tell her all the time that I wanted to be an attorney, and I wanted to be a businessman. So, I wasn't sure what type of business, but those were my aspirations at that time. And, during middle school, I was, very active and had a lot of opportunities to speak on various platforms. I recall I was actually privileged to receive the School of the Year award, through, the Georgia Middle School Association or what have you. When we were named a School of Excellence or whatnot, I was the person that actually spoke on that platform.
So you are becoming the go-to student. I know those students that teachers can trust to carry out a particular mission and then do it with excellence. So yes, I see that foundation forming. So now that you have made great accomplishments so far between your elementary and your middle school days, as you transition into high school, what type of student were you? Were you still on that level of, I'm going to do as much as I can and be excellent? Or did you start having other interests and things started happening in high school? Mind sharing any particular moment?
My mother would tell you that I've always been a very active individual. Certainly as a child, there were numerous extracurricular activities that I was involved in. I would be active in band, track and field. I played basketball, was very active in baseball, and, was very engaged, maintained a pretty high GPA throughout high school. I graduated it in the top 10%, certainly of my, and at the same time, I was a tutor. So I would actively get to school early and tutor my classmates, go through my full day. And I had the opportunity to tutor them right before going to whatever practice I had after school.
And as I mentioned earlier, you and I attended Georgia Tech together. That's where we graduated together. Was there a particular influence that helped you choose Georgia Tech versus the other schools?
Yes, kudos to Dorothy Swan. She was my high school counselor, exceptional person. When I was uncertain of which school I was interested in attending, to apply to as many schools as I was interested in. And ultimately, I applied using the Common App and also another similar app or whatnot, which was designed for minority students. And using those applications and filling out a few additional applications, I was actually accepted to over 50 schools.
Wow. And what's the name of that app again? I haven't heard of that before.
The Common Application is, just a way for students to apply to as many schools as possible with doing as minimal essays as possible. So it will group, there may be 3 essays that are similar across, these 100 potential schools that can be applied to using the Common App. And, the only thing that you will have to do is add any supplemental essays. So, like, for example, a school like Emory may include additional supplemental essay question. And you simply have to fill out the Common App and then add that additional supplemental essay to it or whatnot. The only additional expense at that time was just paying for transcripts. So, it was pretty inexpensive to apply to a lot of schools. I thought that I would actually be going to Harvard or NYU. I was accepted at both, but due to finances, I decided to attend Georgia Tech.
Wow. I wish I would have known about that. This is my first time even hearing about that. Because when I applied, my daddy drove me to Georgia Tech to pick up the application, to fill it out.
Wow.
That's the only thing that I knew to do. But nevertheless, it's great to have this option. And hopefully, if it's still existing, those who are young and would like to apply via the Common App, which sounds super cool and efficient, to try that as a way to get into as many schools as possible without paying for all of these application fees. separately. That's so cool. Thank you for sharing that. So being at Georgia Tech, what did you come in the same major that you graduated with?
Well, I actually came in Georgia Tech right at the fall of 2000. I had a lot of interest, was interested in computer engineering, was interested in really exploring media, the LCC or the LLC, the School of Literature, Communication, and Culture or whatnot. I was interested in a lot of their programs, but initially I came in as a computer engineer, and then I switched to becoming a STAC major, science, technology, and culture.
Same here. I don't know if I shared that with you, but that was my path. I started as, I started as an IE, which is industrial engineering. And then that freshman year, I transitioned to computer engineering. But my senior year, I changed over to, it's our degree is called Science, Technology, and Culture. It comes out the Literature, Media, and Culture, LMC school at Georgia Tech. So we have that similar path, and here we are working in the arts.
There you go.
As other things. So, and I look at your face and I'm like, I'm taken back to that time that we were actually about to get on stage to receive our degree. And it was just a great time. So after that moment, we have graduated. What is pulling you in the direction that you ended up going from Georgia Tech? Was it to move immediately to Chicago, or did you stay around in Atlanta for a little time?
Well, yes. When I graduated from Tech, I was eager to just get out and explore the world. So I applied to a number of positions, and that's what led me to Chicago. So I would say after graduation, I wasn't around Atlanta, but for maybe about 7 months. And I accepted a position here in Chicago. For me, initially that was at a Career Builder. I became a member of their team. They had an account management position. Ultimately, I knew that I wanted to move to a certain city, and I wanted to, engage the youth there, and ultimately wanted to go to law school. I knew that even at that time. So I came here to Chicago, started working at Career Builder. And, at the same time, I was looking at other employment options and, looking at grant opportunities. Ultimately, I ended up discovering a program at the Ark of St. Sabina. It's a famous cathedral church. It's actually led by Father Flager, Michael Flager. He's an esteemed member of the clergy here, and he's actually famous. He actually marched with Martin Luther King. He's very instrumental in the community, and he gave me an opportunity there to work with some of their programs, and I started writing grants for robotics and website design to teach the youth. And, I did that for a couple of years before starting law school.
That is so cool that you were working at Career Builder and you're identifying with your purpose. Like, you're just not letting that just stay stagnant, that that there's something bigger for you. And it's almost like that word that you spoke to your teacher back in middle school, that I want to be a lawyer, that's still ringing in your ears, even as a college graduate working a steady job at Career Builder, and you need to figure out how to transition into working as a lawyer. So tell us about that transition. It's time to come from working at Career Builder, and you need to start your journey into law. What school did you end up choosing, and why?
Okay. Well, I applied to maybe about 15 law schools, among them, Northwestern, among them, University of Georgia, and obviously Chicago, Kent, where I ended up. For me, it was all about the best intellectual property program. Intellectual property is the area of law that encompasses entertainment law. And I always knew that I wanted to be an IP attorney. When I was at Tech, as I stated, I was a member of that media program. And ultimately, I wanted to protect artists and, wanted to protect people that were interested in developing a wide range of content. While at Tech, I also had the opportunity of meeting Thomas Lux, the esteemed poet. And, he really guided me with respect to copywriting quite a bit. So I knew that, that's what I was interested in. As a matter of fact, I recall speaking with him, even prior to, starting law school. He actually wrote one of my recommendation letters, to law school. And, that's what he was all about. He was all about protection of intellectual property. As a lot of his works, over the years, with respect to licensing and what have you, whatnot, he was always looking for new opportunities.
That is excellent. So as you are about to go into your graduate studies, you're studying to become a lawyer. What type of challenges did you overcome during your years as a law student?
Well, for me, it was really, trying to balance what I had already created here in Chicago. And by that, I mean the programs, the robotics and the website design programs that I had already created, because I felt that I was, responsible to, a large segment of the youth. By the time I started law school, I had already created over, 100 jobs for the youth here in Chicago. So they would actually be paid to come to my programming or whatnot. And they were doing that, on a semester basis. So they would actively be with me from fall, semesters and also spring semesters in the summer or whatnot. We also had different opportunities for them. We would engage them with, robotics programs on a larger scale, on an international scale. And that was the challenge because, I felt like, I needed to keep the program going for them. So I was able to, engage some additional people to kind of spearhead taking over that program while I started law school. So, when I was in my first year, I recall that fall semester just being very challenging because that was when I was essentially handing the keys over to this program. To these programs. And, I would constantly receive calls from my former students who wanted me to come back. So I was kind of bridging both worlds. But ultimately, I found the right person and, my students were pleased and, things worked out. I was able to concentrate fully on law school while I was there. Once I started law school, within my first year, I became aware of a new program that would be started at the school at IIT, Illinois Institute of Technology, which is the parent university for Chicago Kent Law School. So I became aware of this newly developing program. It was the Masters of Intellectual Property program. This was the first program of its kind. And it would be a program that would create new opportunities for intellectual property managers. So people that are looking to license content and license intellectual property and value intellectual property, with respect to, calculating damages, for example, within litigation, Apple v. Samsung, things of that nature. And I thought the program was going to be phenomenal. So I spoke to the department head at that time and decided to enroll in that program. So law school for me became balancing both my JD curriculum and also the Master's in Intellectual Property curriculum. And I was able to successfully navigate those waters and graduate, even ahead of time. With both programs, one would expect to be done in 4 years. It was a few credit hours of completing it in 3. And I just, stuck around an additional semester while I was in school. And after I completed that master's program, I completed that within a year. I was given an opportunity to work with ICAP Patent Brokerage, which is the world's largest patent brokerage. I ended up meeting, Dean Becker. And Dean Becker is famous for coining the phrase, or the technology beeper. He owned Becker Communications Company back in the early 90s. So, I met this guy. He was instrumental in my journey. He had made a lot of money. He had told me about his opportunities in his life. He had actually grew up dirt poor, and he became a millionaire by the time he was 24. And had worked in this IP context. So he recruited me to come over and intern for him as a patent broker. And the thing about it was he was willing to pay me at a patent broker salary as a graduate of this IP program. So while I was still taking law courses during that first summer, once I completed that master's program, I started working for him at ICAP Patent Brokerage. I actually had the opportunity of meeting Steven Spielberg, whatnot, while I was interning there at ICAP. He was actually selling a patent portfolio that he had developed while he was making his documentary, the documentary about the Holocaust. Ultimately, there were about 15 patents in the portfolio, and he entrusted that to our organization. And I developed the language that was used to actually sell that portfolio. While I was at ICAP, I actually did all of their value proposition statements. So I would essentially explain what the technology was that was being sold, and I would work within the virtual rooms to prepare the technology for sale. I've been a part of some of the biggest patent sales and auction sales of intellectual property in history as a result of working for ICAP Patent Brokerage. So I was there, he allowed me to stay there even beyond my 1 semester internship. I ended up being there for about a year. He kept me on until after I graduated from law school and asked me if I was still interested in staying there. I told him at that time I was interested in going to one of the partner organizations. So, coming out of law school, I ended up working for a sister organization. And their sister organization was Intellectual Property Exchange International. That is the world's first exchange of property. So, a lot of firsts. I've certainly been blessed, to be on the groundwork of being in the first intellectual property manager class in the country, and working for the world's first intellectual property exchange, and also the world's first and the largest patent brokerage as well.
Woo, you over here just knocking my socks off. I did not realize all of that was happening for you. That is amazing. All that you were able to do and people you met. And that's just awesome. I'm even more happy that you're my lawyer.
Well, I'm happy to be your lawyer and happy to be here.
Yes. So now that you're working in that space, how long were you there until you decided to venture off into your own company?
Well, it was pretty quick, actually. I recall I had actually been sworn in as an attorney even prior to receiving my law degree. So, I actually was sworn in. It was 10 years ago. About a couple of weeks ago, I just celebrated my 10-year anniversary of being an attorney. And I marched, perhaps about 2 weeks later, and finally received my law degree. I was already working at the Intellectual Property Exchange, and I had approached the general counsel about just working with some clients in entertainment law that was outside of the scope of what we were dealing with back at IPXI. So I was interested in working with some inventors. I was interested in working with some photographers, and in particular, actually, famed photographer Ray Baker here in Chicago or whatnot. He had a number of prints. He was actually among my first clients. And I was also interested in representing playwright Yolanda Androzo, who was here in Chicago, and who actually penned the MLK Project, which is a phenomenal play that has been running over 20 years here in Chicago. So those were two of my first clients. They wanted me active on all of their acting or their writing, deals. I approached general counsel, and they told me that unless, we were dealing with, intellectual property that was valued over, $300 million, they were not concerned. So they told me to go ahead and I could start representing clients immediately. So I actually, while I was at IPXI, I was also, working with inventors and working with content creators, directors like yourself, actors, like yourself. And it's been a beautiful journey. I was just able to, kind of go straight in. Ultimately, after IPXI ended up closing its doors, a lot of the connections that I had made while I was there, I still was able to leverage. And, the thing about working at Intellectual Property Exchange International was that I had worked with, I'd say at least 85% of the, the top 100 companies. If you can think of, Ford or Dell or HP or Philips, all of those organizations I had worked with, and I had been looking at all of their shelved patents, if you will, all of their intellectual property that they were not actively using, and I would find ways for them to monetize that intellectual property. So I was in contact with, the IP heads of essentially, the top organizations in the world, and several small organizations as well.
Wow, that's so cool. You are amazing. Just if anybody hasn't said that to you lately, you are amazing.
Thanks so much, Drea. I feel the same way about you. This journey, since I've met you, you've always been driven, whatnot, to achieve your goals. And, it's fantastic to see where you are today. And, we still have so much more work to do. So looking forward to that future work as well.
Yes, absolutely. So now that you have been introduced to artists and you are starting to work with them more and you are transitioning into your full-time space as owning your company, it's Muhammad Law LLC now.
That's correct.
But it started from something else. Can you share what that transition was and those points to go from here, rebranding, and now you're this?
That's correct. So initially, when I, started working, with these small inventors, I did not see the need to actually formalize, Muhammad Law. So I was just operating as, the law office of Khaliyq Muhammad. But after, several years operating in that capacity, and certainly after IPXI had closed down, I made a decision that I was entirely committed to, my law office. I wasn't going anywhere. And at that point, that's when I formed Muhammad Law LLC here in Chicago. So, that was 2019. In 2019, I was also active on a lot of other projects, including, working to get put together a biopic, about the life of Chairman Fred Hampton of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panther Party in particular. So, at that point, in dealing with so many of the various media outlets, I determined that, I wanted to go 100%, full-fledged, we're putting this together, we're going to build a team, and we're going to go from there. And, I haven't looked back since.
So can you share with us your experience of just even working through a project such as that? Like, how long did it take to go from you've made contact with the family, you've agreed to work together, from that point and seeing all the other points, how long did it take to get to this film is now nominated for an Academy Award? And what was that journey like?
Well, I'll tell you this. It's always interesting being an entertainment lawyer, and I'll say that because people will get your number and you'll have no idea how they got your number. So I actually was just relaxing one day, and I got a call one afternoon. I was unsure what what number was or who was on the other end of the number that was coming in on my phone. And I answered the phone, and it was Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. And that was the first call that I ever had with him. Someone had simply passed him my personal number, so not even my business line number. And he told me that he was working with the Hampton House, so actually the birth home of Chairman Fred Sr., and they were looking to save that house. So when I received the call, from Chairman Fred Jr., it wasn't, with respect to any media project or anything like that. I was focused on really, trying to put whatever resources together to save the birth home, which we were able to do. So, we went on to save the birth home. But at the same time in the process, I became aware that they were looking to have their story told. They told me about numerous studios that had approached them about telling this story for quite some time. They had been approached for nearly 20 years trying to get the story told in the correct way. They had declined every opportunity. We had spoken to, essentially every studio of the larger studios that you could probably think of, about this project. Eventually we were in a conversation with Ryan Coogler. And also, we were in conversation with Macro and the head of Macro as well, about this project. And it just seemed to be the right fit. So overall, I will say that from the time that I came on board, which is, before any of these conversations with these, these movie heads, any of the recent conversations or whatnot, it took approximately about 3 to 4 years before we saw the type of traction that we needed to see, whatnot. And then obviously, even with Judas and the Black Messiah, which was released during the pandemic, there were there were additional delays. Ultimately, I would say even getting the story right and filming and going back and forth, I would say that process took about 1.5 years with their studios, just making sure. And we were still on hand when it was recorded as well. So we were actually in the studio in Cleveland as the films were being, as the scenes were being filmed, to ensure that the film remained authentic or whatnot to what actually happened. We were able to, so I was, able to travel with Chairman Fred Jr., and I was also able to travel with Mother Akua and Jerry, whatnot, of the Black Panther Party, and it was a beautiful experience. And Charles King at Macro, he was very helpful throughout that process, and it's amazing to see, how people feel about that film today. I get calls all the time where people are unaware that I was involved in the project, and when they and they share their feelings on it, many people have went on to tell me that that's their favorite film, just the way that it was depicted. And in Hollywood, not always do we have that level of authenticity, and having people involved, like people that have actually experienced that true life story, actively involved on projects. And that was the major, take home thing that I think we got out of that experience. And even with Charles King, he says it all the time. In his experience, he was actually one of the top agents in Hollywood. And he says how that experience was, so much different because of the involvement of the Hampton family on that project.
Excellent. So those who are listening and may be thinking of starting their own practice, are there particular tools that you need, or even team members that help you do what you do that you wouldn't mind?
Oh, yes. Certainly, people are, key to everything that we do. Having the right team, is essential to success. And also really having the right software. So we need practice management software to operate. Currently we're actively using Clio. We feel that, that works well for a lot of our clients. There are numerous options that way. We also need to have access to legal research tools. So, the two biggest players on the market, there are Lexis and Westlaw. We're active with Lexis. We feel that they have a better product offering or whatnot, and they work better with smaller firms. So those are two softwares that are essential to the day-to-day operation of a of a firm. And as far as having additional staff, I do think that you could actually start a firm independently, just with one person. I've certainly been successful in doing that. But as soon as you get to the point where you can hire additional help, you want to do that so that way you can delegate and you can concentrate on what needs to be done, without being distracted by calls that are coming in. Bless you. By calls that may be coming in. Ultimately, you want to hire an intake coordinator, or you want to hire a firm administrator. If you get to that point as well, just to kind of ease the workflow. Because it can be very tedious working in the entertainment field. You got a lot of contracts you have to review, you got a lot of deadlines you need to meet, and certainly in the entertainment context, deadlines are key.
Thank you for sharing those tools and some of your team members and their positions. So now that you are in this great place in life, what is your professional goal now?
Become better. Every day is about improving, and becoming more efficient. And even after you have certain tools in place, you need to take additional steps to make sure that they are working more efficient for you, because you don't want to repeat the same work over and over unnecessarily. You want to kind of streamline your activities as much as possible. And you certainly want to enjoy life as much as possible, and be able to actively engage with, your clients, but also your friends and your family. So for me, this next chapter is, just about becoming more efficient, to become a better leader, and to implement these tools in a better way, where we are maximizing and becoming better known, in the marketplace. So becoming a better known entertainment lawyer and being able to help so many more creators of content, because there is so much more that really needs to be created, so many stories that need to be told, so many more art pieces that are currently being developed, and a crew of young, creative, energetic people with voices, that are going to be creating, tomorrow's next masterpieces.
Yes, indeed. And I'm trying to continue with my path to be in that midst of creators, to create things, while having you on to help me be the best that I can be from a legal standpoint. And we have a question here before we move on to getting to know you a little bit better. What piece of advice would you give to those who want to follow in your footsteps?
I'd say to just remain focused. And I know that's easier said than done, but do not let people deter you from what you think your purpose is. And I say that because it's so easy for other people to tell you to quit on your dream. And you really are not giving them any power until you start believing what they're saying. So you need to take control of the situation, remain empowered, remain committed, put your head down, do the hard work. And at the end of the day, you'll come out victorious. I'm a firm believer in that.
Thank you. Yes, I receive all of that advice as I'm still growing and moving forward towards my dream. So we have a segment here. Then this just allows us to get to know you more as an individual outside of work. And I'll have a couple of quick response questions. Well, some of them are quick response and others are just, more thoughtful responses that you can give to these questions. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Window or aisle seat?
Window.
What book would you give as a gift?
That's a tough one. I would say, most recently, there is a book called Edison in the Boardroom, and it's for IP managers. I would recommend that book. I think it's very helpful from a licensing perspective for creative type people. So I'd say Edison in the Boardroom. Let me go and add that to my Amazon cart. Amazon, and it's called Edison in the Boardroom. Edison in the Boardroom. Yes. Okay, I will look into purchasing that today. What movie can you not resist watching if it came on right now? Friday. I love Friday. Yes, I completely agree. What is your favorite recipe to cook? I'd say blackened chicken. Okay, all right. Let me go get a plate of some blackened chicken. What makes you laugh the most? I'd say, comedians, and particularly, I'd say Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle is pretty funny. He's pretty hilarious. So, whenever Chappelle's special is out, some other comedians in a couple of weeks, I'm looking forward to seeing Martin Short and Steve Martin in person. Two legends. Love those gentlemen, Martin Short and Steve Martin. So let's say that you are at a social gathering and a theme song or some type of entrance song needs to be played to announce you. What song would you have the DJ play? Well, my favorite song is September. I was born in September, so I would say that. Okay. And if you could choose one superpower, what would it be? The ability to just live in the moment, oftentimes, there are so many other things that are going on, that we as human beings, we just don't concentrate on the moment and just celebrate the moment for what is. We're always thinking about, additional concerns. So it's important to live in the moment. Yes, that needs to be a superpower for real, especially for me, because I'm thinking all the way into next month, maybe, instead of right here, and appreciative of the time I have right now. But I'm very appreciative to connect with you in this moment. So that's a great superpower. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt? Sports agent. Oh, okay. Yes, that's in the same family. It's in the same family. Certainly a lot of transferable skills as well. And I already work with a lot of athletes. But I do think that's the next chapter for the firm. I think we will actively become a sports agency firm at some point. Yeah, sports agency. Are you going to keep the name Muhammad Law, or are you going to add and sports? Because that's a thing. Oh yes, with respect to branding or whatnot, we'll likely roll out a new identifier. So certainly looking at some options now. Okay. Who is your favorite person or account to follow on social media? I follow a lot of accounts, not necessarily anyone more so than the others, but I will tell you this, relative towards my friends and family, the best thing for me on social media is when I see friends and family just celebrating major, accomplishments, especially in the framework of education. So this is like my favorite season right now, seeing so many people post about their children or, the godchildren or nieces or nephews graduating from school with high honors, or, completing kindergarten, I'm all for it. I'm all for that level of positivity, as well. So, I scroll through, my social media to spread love, if you will, literally just looking for all of the positive and just looking to put my heart on all of the positive stories that are going on in my network.
I agree. This is a fantastic season to make note of those academic accomplishments, from the pre-kindergarten children to the postgraduate or even retirement phase. So yeah, it's something about this season to celebrate. And I completely agree with you. So I have some final thoughts as we're about to transition out and allow you to be with your son. And we're gonna let you mention your family, but what projects are in the future for you? I know you mentioned sports agency, but are there more projects that you're excited about happening?
Well, yes. So, in addition to, the law firm, Muhammad Law, LLC, I'm also the owner of Grand Gestures Realty, so a realty company here in Chicago. And I'm also, have a couple of securities licenses as well, with respect to financial services. So, in those contexts, I'm all about financial empowerment in the community, and also about changing the narrative, especially in communities of color, with respect to home ownership. So those are some of the tasks, that I will be tending to, in addition to law, moving forward.
I need you to offer a masterclass in any of those subjects, like a little 2-hour masterclass, so that I can come and learn some things. Because as I'm an artist, and yet I still need to have some level of business acumen, I want to become more knowledgeable about the streams of income that are available to me. And I do know that I am not using my talents, but making sure that my talents are connected to money and income. So yes, your future project needs to be holding a masterclass, sir. Okay, we need you there. Okay.
But that sounds great. I might need your help in helping to implement it.
Okay, cool. And 2 more questions for you. Would you like to give some shout outs or some love notes to people who have been supportive of you on your journey, or even, as I mentioned earlier, your family?
Oh, of course. I'll use this opportunity. Certainly, always grateful, to God, for, just everything, my existence, my family, putting me in a position for success. My parents, always, Shaya and Khaliyq Muhammad, my siblings, we are known as the M5 or Muhammad 5. So certainly a lot of love to them, Sharif, Hanifa, Lafia, and Rafiq. And also, obviously, relative towards my wife, Dr. Folashade Ogunsanya, and then also, my son, he's been, truly a joy as well, Kayode Siddiq Muhammad. And my grandparents, I've certainly lost, a couple of my grandparents along this journey, but, my grandfather, Jacob Smith, he's still alive in his 90s. He's doing well. Thank him for his guidance, and for his love and direction, all of these years. And then also my grandmother, she's alive and well. On my maternal grandmother on the other side, she's alive and well. Livonia Cord in her 90s. She really set the standard for hard work in my family. She was a nurse as well. When she was working, she was actively as a nurse, worked some 40 years in New York as a nurse. And she was one of the hardest working of her siblings. And she instilled hard work in me, from a very early age.
Thank you for sharing all of your loved ones' names, and blessings to you. And my final question of today is, how can people connect to you if they want to learn more about you or work with you possibly? Would you mind sharing how can people do so?
Oh, sure. Certainly, I can be reached, at muhammadlawgroup.com. I can be reached there. I can also be reached by phone at Muhammad Law 872-762-3030, or by email at info at muhammadlawgroup.com.
Awesome. Well, we have come to the end of today's spotlight. If this podcast has helped you, please share and be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to Dream of Drea across all social media platforms. My name is Drea of Dream of Drea, a production company specializing in driving ideas from your pages to stages and from your dreams to all sorts of screens. Remember, wherever you are right now is the right time to act on your dreams. And I thank you for joining us and listening to the awesome Mr. Muhammad, my Georgia Tech classmate, my lawyer. And I hope that you all join us for the next episode. Until then, you all take care. Bye-bye, everybody.